Students, I am sure today's class will be quite interesting for you all. Today we will make a trip to a village. Aren't you all excited? Let us start our journey from the beautiful city of Vijayawada to Penamakuru village in the Krishna Delta. We will go to this village and learn about the people, their occupation and other factors associated with the villagers living in the Delta villages. From Vuyuru in Krishna district, one has to cross the Bandar canal to reach the village of Penamakuru.
The Bandar canal takes off from Prakasam barrage on the river Krishna in Vijayawada. It flows from northwest to southeast direction of the village of Penamakuru. The water from this canal is used in the fields of Penamakuru through small field channels.
Before learning more about the village of Penamakuru, let us know something about Prakasam barrage. The city of Vijayawada is located at the head of the Krishna Delta on the northern bank.
The Prakasam barrage was built across the river Krishna in 1853 by the British. This barrage diverts the waters into canals for irrigating about 12 lakh acres of land.
Coming back to our village of Penamakuru, it is situated between the Krishna river and Bandar canal. In this village, we can find three types of soil. The soil mostly found in the village of Penamakuru is fertile alluvial black soils.
The soils that are deposited by the river are called alluvial soils or ondrubhumi. The alluvial soils are generally heavy and have high water holding capacity.
The alluvial soils are very fertile soils. What does that mean? Do crops grow well on such soils? The soils in this region contain fine and clay black soils as deep as 15 feet.
These soils hence get very sticky in the rainy season and they also retain the moisture for a long time.
What happens when the soil dries up?
These soils when dry crack. This in other words is called self-ploughing, which helps in causing fertility.
Due to the availability of water and fertility of the soils, many a times it is possible to raise 2 or 3 crops in a year. Some parts of the village near to the river on the south and west have sandy soil. Most of the soils in this region are fertile. We have learnt about the soils in this region. Now let us have a look at the rainfall and irrigation in this region. The rainfall, as we know, is very important, especially for the crops. Can you guess when does this region generally receive rainfall? Here is the clue. It is not between November and May.
This region generally receives rainfall between June and October under the influence of the southwest monsoon. There is no rain during the months of November to May.
The warm temperature in this region makes it possible to raise crops throughout the year. But how do the crops get water when there is no rainfall between November and May?
In order to raise the crops during the days when there is no rainfall, the lands are irrigated using the water from the canal or the nearby wells or tanks.
Before we go to the next section, here's a small exercise for you. Make a list of the different crops that we use as food in our daily lives. We have learned that the crops are grown almost throughout the year in this region. Now, let's take a look at the different crops grown in this region.
Paddy is one of the highly cultivated crops in the coastal plains, especially in the Krishna district. The lands in the low areas are extensively sown with paddy.
Now, let's take a look at how these crops are cultivated.
The nursery for the paddy monsoon crop, called the salva, is sown and transplanted during June and July. This is then harvested during October-November. The winter crop, called dalva, which is either paddy or pulse, is sown in the month of December.
The tractors are generally used for plowing, threshing and transportation. During the last few years, many farmers started cultivating sugarcane instead of paddy. Let's have a look at these sugarcane cultivations. In addition to sugarcane, the villages of Penamakuru also cultivate turmeric, banana, yam, etc. in the uplands of the village. These crops are mostly grown for sale in the market rather than for consumption in the village. The villages of Penamakuru in the olden days cultivated red gram, millets and green gram on the uplands. These plants do not require much water. These crops are now replaced with sugarcane and vegetables which required irrigation. The uplands in the Penamakuru village are suitable for growing vegetables. Sometimes in the low-lying lands, when water is not adequate for cultivation of second crop of paddy, then vegetables are cultivated.
The vegetables like lady's fingers, brinjals, gherkins, cabbages and ridge gourds are cultivated in these lands and sold in the Vuyuru Raitu bazaars.
During summers, some farmers also cultivate jiluga or pelipesara. Do you know why these plants are cultivated?
The cultivation of jiluga and pillupesara increases the fertility of the field. These are leguminous green manure crops which fix nitrogen in the soil.
Isn't it interesting? These crops are then plowed back into the soil after a period of 30 to 40 days. Students, did you notice that we have seen several fruit bearing trees and orchards on our way to the village of Penamakuru? Due to the high content of sand, the soil near the river, crops like paddy do not tend to grow well. Why it is so?
The soils with high sand content have very less
So, we have understood why the land near the rivers is ideal for growing fruit bearing trees. Why do you think there is a change in growing of food crops like paddy, pulses to cash crops like sugarcane, turmeric, vegetables and fruits? Well, there is another exercise that you need to complete for the next class. The land ownership is nothing but the ownership of land by people in the village. Tenancy is a practice of renting the agricultural land that is owned by somebody else to carry out the agriculture activities. In the village of Penamakuru, there are about 750 families.
Among the 750 families in Penamakuru, 10 families own 10 acres of land and above. Approximately 150 families have land below 5 acres and the remaining does not have any land.
The people who do not have any land end up leasing the land to the landed farmers or work as laborers in the farms. Have you ever wondered how the houses in the villages are? Have you ever seen a house in a village? Here's an interesting task for all of you. Collect pictures of various kinds of houses in the villages and make an album for the next class. Now, let's take a look at the houses in the village of Penamakuru. The main village of Penamakuru is inhabited by landlords and the others live in the nearby hamlets.
The farmers and other agricultural laborers live in the hamlets on the banks of the canal.
Animal rearing is the practice of rearing animals or domesticating them. With most of the land being used for agriculture purposes, the animal rearing is not a large-scale activity in the village of Penamakuru.
Bullocks, cows, buffaloes and sheep are some of the animals that are reared for working on the fields and other purposes.
Villages are hotspots of some traditional activities that we do not tend to find in the cities and towns. Penamakuru village is home to many basket weaving families. These families migrated to this village in search of work.
The main occupation of these people is making baskets, catching rats and rearing pigs.
Isn't it strange, students? These people have opted for these kinds of occupations since many years. They collect the date palm strands from the canal banks and make the baskets. They sell the baskets and make a living. In addition, they are also into fishing and sell the fish in the nearby villages. Many of us like non-vegetarian so much, isn't it? But have you wondered from where and how we get the non-vegetarian food products like chicken and eggs? It is through the poultry farms.
The Penamakuru village has a poultry farm which contains about 80,000 hens that lay about 50,000 eggs in a day.
Just like all the living beings, the hens also require to be fed with food and water every day. This is how they do it.
The food is supplied through the conveyors to the hens. The water is supplied to the hens through the nipples.
These eggs are then transported to various places not only inside state but also to various other states of the country. Another interesting feature of poultry farming is the chicken dropping. The chicken droppings are sold as feed for the fishes to the farmers in the nearby places. The village of Penamakuru has a rice mill. What does this rice mill do? Let's have a look.
The owners of the rice mill purchase the paddy from the farmers and process it and sell the produce to other states.
The poultry and the rice mills are based on agriculture. This is why they are called agro industries. transportation is very important not only for people to travel from place to place, but also for the transportation of various goods from one place to another. It is through these transportation facilities that we are able to get various commodities that are grown hundreds and thousands of kilometers away from us.
This place is well connected by roads, which helps in marketing the crop to various places. The vegetables and bananas are sold to Raitu bazaars, which are in Vayuru and Vijayawada. The paddy is sold in the fields itself through brokers.
Isn't it interesting that the crop that is grown hundreds of kilometers away travels all the way and reaches our doorstep to feed our stomachs? But who grows these crops and how is the labor available?
The villagers from this village are mostly employed for growing the crops. In addition, people from nearby villages also come as agricultural laborers. The youths who have studied till 10th standard or above work as electricians, auto drivers and mechanics.
So students, here ends our trip to the Delta village of Penamakuru. Hope all of you have enjoyed the trip to the village and are recharged now for the next class.